Okay, so let's give this a look. I'm gonna shut this light off. I think we'll be able to see fine. Okay, you guys got your notebooks out, huh? Ready to go? Okay, so this is actually section 1-6. I know you're like, but we did chapter 1 so long ago. Yes, but we did not do this section. So this is called collecting data. Okay, so let's say, I'm gonna use Legoland a lot in my examples because it's on my brain. Let's say I wanted to conduct a survey to see if people liked their experience at Legoland or not. Let's just pretend for easy numbers. Let's just say there was 1,000 people at Legoland on any given day. If I ask 2 people when they're leaving, if they like their experience or not, does that give me a good sense of what everybody felt? If I just asked 2 people out of 1,000, I would say no, right? Maybe those 2 people had a fantastic time and everybody else didn't. Who knows? It's too small of what we call a sample size. So if I want to know if people are generally satisfied or dissatisfied, I need to ask more than just 2 people in 1,000, right? That would be too small. So let's see, how do we put this in words? Let's say when collecting data, taking a good sample is important. Sample size, for example. So in our example, only asking 2 out of 1,000 people is not enough. What if instead of only asking 2 people, what if I ask every 10th person that walked out if they were satisfied with their trip or not? Would that give us a better idea of the overall? Yeah, sure. Every 10th person is much more reasonable. I mean, ideally, I would ask every single person, but in real life, sometimes that's just not possible. There would be no way for me to possibly do that. Okay. So we can say, however, asking every 10th person would give us a better idea. And you could sort of extrapolate this to anything. When you guys leave lunch today, sometimes when you come back in, I always ask you, how was lunch? You guys always say it was terrible. Well, not always, but very frequently the answer is terrible. But I wonder, is that a good sample size? If I were to ask all of Tantascwa students on any given day how lunch was, maybe I'd get different results, right? You guys are too small of a sample size. You're only 12 kids out of, what do we have, 1,200 or something like that. It's not enough. But if I ask every 5th kid or 10th kid or whatever that left the cafeteria, did you like your lunch today? I'd get a more clear picture of how the entire body feels. Does that make sense? I hope, okay. Let's see, what else? The other thing to think about is whether you are asking people randomly or not. What if I only ask, say I'm conducting a survey, same thing, how kids like school lunch, but I only ask my friends. Well, that's not really a representation of the full student body here, right? You can't pick and choose who you're going to ask. You would have to select a random sampling. So as kids are leaving the cafeteria, that's pretty random. I can ask every 10th kid. I can't foresee the order in which they're going to come out. So that's usually a pretty good way. But if you're only asking your friends, well, now it's not really so random anymore. Imagine, go back to Legoland. What if I only asked kids what their experience was leaving Legoland? I hope that every single kid is going to say that they had the best day ever, right? And hopefully they did. But, it's the parents that got to bring them there. So you got to keep the parents happy. Anyway, so let me give you an example. You tell me if this would be a good way to take data or not.
Did you ever grade that test from Friday?
No, but I will. Let's say, what do I want to do a study on? Oh, I know. Experience, is it in ENCE or is it ANCE? Did I spell it right or is that wrong? I don't know.
Oh, you spelled it right.
I did?
I think so, yeah.
It is an E? Yeah. I thought it seemed a little wrong. I hear a lot of music. Francisco, is that your music? I can hear it. Hi. Como se dice loud? Loud, like. Ah. Es bueno, pero lower. Okay, as a DoorDash manager, I want to know how customers' experience was with a certain driver. I send a survey by text. To drivers last Okay, so imagine this scenario. I guess it doesn't really matter that you ordered DoorDash, but anyway, let's pretend that I'm a DoorDash manager. I want to know how the customer's experience has been with a certain driver. So what I do is I go in, I see all their orders for the day, and maybe I pick 10 of those at random and I send them a survey just saying, were you satisfied with your delivery or not? Would that be a good way for me to kind of get a feel for the day? If this particular driver was meeting expectations or not. Well, I mean, you might be, yes, that's true. I may not get everybody to participate, right? If I send out 10 surveys, I may not get all 10 back.
You're not gonna get one back.
I did it. We ordered DoorDash and I did the survey. If they're good, because I want them to get the accolades, right? If someone did a good job, I want their supervisor to know. So especially when it's like one question and it just says, were you happy or not happy? I mean, that takes 2 seconds. But you're right, a long survey, I'm totally not gonna do it. But a short little one question, were you happy or not happy? That I think most people are gonna just tap the button. But you bring up a good point, because it kind of depends on how many you get back. So let's add this. So but is this fair though of me? Let's say, so if I pick 10 random people to send this survey to, if you're that driver, are you like, oh, okay, that's a fair representation? Or are you like, I really wish you had done more or less or what? Let's assume that maybe they did 30 deliveries that day. I don't know how many is normal, but let's just pretend that they did 30. So if I sent out a survey to 10 random people that they delivered to. Boy, you guys are really invested today. I would say yes, that is a relatively fair assessment. Keeping that in mind too, because that is how, sometimes people do have certain incentives that are tied to their ratings. So if you do get, if you ever do have good service, it can actually go a long way to let their manager know that you did get good service. But anyway, yes, this would be a good sampling. Survey was done randomly. If you've ever had a job before, or even if you haven't, if you could imagine, let's just say you're a cashier or whatever. Sometimes, even if you are a really good employee, sometimes, somebody may be dissatisfied, right? It happens. Yes, you can't please every person every day. Some people just can't be pleased, right? So if I only ask one person and I ask that one person, that might just be a difficult customer. I don't want that to reflect badly on you. But if I ask 10 people, that gives me a much better idea. Okay, if there was one bad instance out of those 10, you know, as a manager, I would say, okay, I get it, I understand it happens. And then I might look over a couple of days, you know, if I keep seeing that you're having more and more negative feedback, okay, well, now maybe that's something to look more into. But if it's only one here and there, I'm probably not really going to be concerned about that. Does that make sense? But I also need to be fair to my employees, right? I don't want to, one bad review, I can't just say, oh, well, forget it. That wouldn't be right. I would want to make sure that I am taking a good sample size, collecting my data appropriately. And this can be really important because sometimes you have raises that are tied to your reviews. So, I don't know, something to think about. All right, so anyway, let's move on to something called a frequency table. I'm actually going to flip. So let's do this. I'm going to have you pick out of the following colors: red, yellow, blue, green, and purple.
Blue.
So if you have to pick one of these 5 colors, let's say, I don't know, for what? I don't know. I'm going to give you a pencil or something. That's one of these 5 colors.
Blue.
Well, hold on, hold on, hold on. Oops. Selection. Oh, hold on. I'm doing this all. I want to set it up differently. Sorry. Okay, so I'm very quickly just going to ask you which of these 5 you want. I already know that Noah wants blue. All right, Francisco, what color would you pick? Another blue. Christian, what color would you pick?
Blue.
Another blue. Sophie, what color? Blue also? John, what color? Green. Okay, Jay, what color? Another blue. Connor? Red. Soup, what color?
Blue.
Another blue. Ash? Maddie, what color? Natalie?
Yellow.
A yellow. And Jay? And a green. Okay, so what I have right here is I just sort of recorded what you had. And then what I can do is I can take these
Blue one.
clearly. But what I can now do is I can turn this into what's called a frequency table. So it's just sort of a nicer way to tally this up. Frequency table. So if I just take all of my colors, I had red, yellow, blue, green, and purple. Nobody chose purple, huh? And then I can just tally up how many of each I had. So red, I only had the 1. Yellow, I had the 1. Blue, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I had 8 of them. Green was 2, and purple was a 0. So a frequency table is literally where I just tally them up, and I can see how many I have. And then I could answer all sorts of questions. What was the most popular? Obviously, it was blue. What was the least popular? Obviously, it was purple because it didn't get any votes at all. I could also, just based on this, I could answer other things like how many students must have been in the class, assuming that everybody gave an answer. I could just tally them up, right? So how many students gave me an answer? 12. I could also ask you things like, how many more people like or chose blue than chose green?
6.
6, right? So I can ask you all sorts of questions, and it's a lot easier to answer those questions looking at a frequency table than just looking at sort of the, hey, here's everybody's information. Just a nicer way to organize it. All right. And I think that's pretty much it for this part. This is, we're a little early for lunch, but does this make sense so far? Easy peasy? Okay, so when we get back from lunch, we do have a little short worksheet to try, and then we'll go from there. All right, so let me stop this. I'll put these out for anybody that needs them.